It's cool to be here with you.
Likewise.
Thank you for doing this. What a weekend for Miami. Native son here, you're seeing it all play out. What does this weekend mean for Miami? What's the vibe right now?
Well, it's like nothing I've ever seen before. I've been here pretty much my whole entire life, and been through Super Bowls, Orange Bowl championship games, obviously the Miami Heat winning championships, multiple, the Marlins. Nothing has rocked this city like F1. I've never seen anything like it. And really in America, we haven't, it's kind of foreign to us, but to tell you the power of today's day and age and content, I have a few girlfriends of mine who watch this Netflix deal, and they've become fanatical. They still haven't gone to a race, and they're paying thousands of dollars for these tickets.
Yeah.
Confusing.
Yeah. You know a little bit about sports. What is it about this sport? And this is a sports town in a very serious way. You just name-checked a bunch of things. And it's not only professional sports, it's collegiate sports, obviously, with Miami leading the way, but also it's home to many former athletes like yourself. You obviously have deep roots, but Big Papi is here and many others. What is it about the sports culture here that is different?
I just think in many ways is kind of a small gap. Like you used to have New York and the Hamptons, now you have New York and Miami.
Yeah.
And you're getting a lot of the good DNA from up north, the Northeast. When we used to come here to Miami, it was always sold out, and it was probably 80% Yankee fans. Similar with probably not as many Red Sox fans, but similar. But Miami is just a special town. It's a city of champions. If you're not a champion or champion-like, the people won't show up. There's too many things going on, not like Minnesota and Minneapolis where, there's a lot to do, but you have less options, right? Here, I have a daughter, they're 17 and 14. Their schedule is busier than mine. Mm-hmm. And I have to kind of pick my time and set an appointment to just see them now, right? So Miami is unique and still in the early stage of where it's going.
We're going to talk about Minneapolis in a second. It's not by accident that you mentioned that specific city because you own the NBA and the WNBA teams there. But before we get to that, I want to stay with Miami for a second because you and I got to spend some time together back in December for an excellent documentary we produced called Athlete Empire about Alex Rodriguez. You should check it out.
Shameless
Available
plug.
on YouTube.
Little plug.
Listen, I have the stage. I'm going to take it. But it was fascinating to see Miami through your eyes, especially through the eyes of not just someone who grew up here, who went to your high school, but we also went to several key real estate investments that you have, including in downtown Miami. And I remember being there with you on that roof and sort of looking across Miami. Real estate has been a huge driver of what's happened here. And yet, here we are at kind of an interesting moment in the real estate market. How do you see it right now?
Well, if you take a step back and you're a New Yorker and let's just say that you're an investment banker and you make $10 million a year. It's a lot of money. If you move to Miami with the savings, you can carry a $30 million mortgage and break even. So during COVID, a lot of people started, underwriting these numbers, right? And it made the obvious move. Obviously, then you can live and work anywhere you want. But I'll share some numbers with you, at least in our business at KRod Corp, how we see it. We underwrote an apartment building, 30 stories downtown. We underwrote our rent a little bit south of 2. We're getting almost $4 per foot. We just finished right here in Miami Beach, an A+ office building. We underwrote them at $45 a foot. With TIs, we're getting almost $100 a foot, no TIs concessions, and we have 50,000 square feet. We can rent out 500,000. So that was incredible. A lot of times it's better to be lucky than good. They just recently put 3 lots, sold as 1, in my old neighborhood in Lagos Island for $170 million. No house, that's just raw land. So those are the goods. Our firm is looking at this as forecasting some headwinds in the past. And what you have here is you have a shortage of schools. You have a shortage of infrastructure, right? It wasn't meant to that many people come at one time. You have a major shortage of, and I'll address this, affordable housing. And you certainly have a shortage of synagogues. Right? It's funny, all my New York friends call me, they want 3 things. They want a good school, they want a good country club, and a synagogue. And I said, well, my friend Mitchell here, I said, listen, I can help you with 2 of the 3. I can't help you with the 3rd.
But I got a guy.
But I got a guy. We always got a guy. I'm my partners. So that's good. But when you think about it, the affordable price is one that we all need to pay attention. And I know the mayor's going to be here. I know it's one of in his main kind of agenda to fix in the future. If you look at it, if you're a waiter or waitress, it's hard for you to get a 1-bedroom apartment. In order to afford a 1-bedroom apartment, you got to make $72,000 a year at least. And most waiters and waitresses are not making that. But you should have 3x of your monthly income. So I'll break it down a little bit for you. So if you're a young person, you make $6,000 per month. You pay $1,500 in taxes. You have $4,500 left. You say you pay $500 for your car. You're down to $4,000. Then you pay your rent for $2,000, and you're left with $2,000. Now you got to go to the groceries, buy your pet some food. You got to get your hair done, nails, pedicure, manicure, and you have about $1,000 left. There's not a lot of room not a lot of room for error. So those are the numbers a lot of young people are doing, and therefore they're going to start moving out. And we can't have our talent move out of town. We got to keep them in town.
And at the same time, Jay Powell's coming in with his friends. Rates are going up. How do you forecast that? You talked about some headwinds. I assume that's got to be part of it, is inflation, rising rates. Like, how do you factor that in? Because you are an ambitious real estate investor.
Yeah, we own about 8,500 apartment units. We own about 9,000 single-family homes all over the Southeast, but specifically in Miami. The way we combat that, as a leader of our company, we always have to think about offense and defense, right? I have an offensive coordinator and I have a defensive coordinator. I'm spending a lot of time with my defensive coordinator right now, right? How do we hedge? How do we protect? We protect the portfolio with puts. We still want to play offense and get part of the ups, but we want to make sure we're very safe. It's a very interesting time right now. The way we fight it is 2 ways. Number one, with rates going up, our rents are going up. But more importantly, we're usually buyers, we're wholesale buyers, not retail buyers. So we're buying things, usually apartment units that are less than replacement cost. So we have an opportunity to grow. We're in the money, and there's a good time to be very patient and disciplined.
How do you see this playing out on the venture side of the business? Because you've been pretty ambitious on that side as well, you and your partner, Mark Laurie. Specifically, what are you seeing in terms of either new opportunities, both new opportunities to invest, but also to exit? How does that feel right now?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at our company, we own probably over 40 companies in our portfolio. We took about 6 public last year. We were supposed to take 7 public this year. Maybe that number will be cut in half. The markets are wildly volatile right now, as you guys know. But here's what's happening. There's still a disconnect in the market. The sellers, if you're a seller, you still think your company's worth X. If I'm the buyer, I know it's worth X minus 50%, sometimes 80%. And we haven't met. That bridge is still very long. At some point, it's going to come together. Some of the founders are starting to get religion. I talk to them daily and weekly, and they're starting to get some religion that they're not worth what even their last round, right? So I think the key for us is we like companies that are growing 2X, 3X year over year. And even if you get say a company grows 3X 3 years in a row, that's 9X. If your company's down 80%, you still have a chance to kind of, uptake your next round. So it's a good time to be really disciplined. And look, we have a lot of serious and uncomfortable conversations with our founders, but we're always there to support and be a helpful hand.
So let's talk about your sports teams. This has been quite a year for you. You got into NBA ownership. I know it's a process that you're going through with the Taylors to take over. But you were there with a literal front row seat to see the T-Wolves make a nice run into the playoffs. Very exciting. A shift from playing to owning is an interesting one, to say the least. What surprised you about sort of seeing this organization from that perspective?
Well, I think a few things. Number one, sports. Look at sports as an anchor tenant to a retail center, right? And the retail anchor is so important. So if you have Walmart and you own a retail center, it's going to make your retail center. Sports, you should look at it as an anchor to a media and entertainment platform. And there's so much that goes on 360 around the clock, not just during the season, but the draft. You see what content did to F1, right? It's storytelling. I think as an industry, the NBA does an incredible job of storytelling. NFL does too. I think baseball has a long ways to go. So what I learned from Mitchell Modell, my great friend, and one of our mentors, George Steinbrenner, I learned a great deal from him.
We've heard of him.
We've heard of him.
Yeah.
I've heard of him too. Talk about uncomfortable conversation. Oh, man. Why am I reading about you on page 6? Oh. I talk over the weekend. It's Shabbat Shalom today. No, oh God. Mitch, you remember those days. Hal is much easier to have conversations with Hal. Hal was very sweet, friendly. No, I think, look, when you look at the Timberwolves, we look at, I get this from John Gray, we like to buy in great neighborhoods. And ideally, we like to buy the worst house in the best neighborhood. And not saying that the Timberwolves were the worst house, but we definitely have opportunities to have tremendous upside. And, you know, we were talking about earlier, I think that in the next 10, 15, 20 years, you won't be able to buy an NFL or an NBA franchise less of $5 billion. And why this has been driven by TV ratings, gaming is an international sport, tremendous growth, incredible leadership with Adam Silver and Mark Tatum. So there's a lot of good things that, and globally, I'm more bullish about the NBA than I am about the NFL. Maybe not domestically, because you know, NFL's king with, you know, fantasy football, and I mean, everyone watches football on Sundays. But if you look at the numbers in the NBA, they've been fantastic. But going back to the Timberwolves, Jason, last year we won 23 games. We won 46 this year. We had 17 sellouts, up from like 3 or 4. And our TV ratings are up about 52%. We have a really exciting team. We have a young kid by the name of Anthony Edwards, who's 20 years old, who, you know, could be the next thing, whether it's Wade or LeBron or Jordan. Anything in that bucket would be really, really great. And we're excited about the next chapter. But in order to win a championship, you mentioned the run, the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life is win a world championship. There's so much sacrifice. And in 2004, I was called the big choker. And Mitchell, you remember, and I thought that was a little unfair because at the end of the day, you win with a team and you lose with a team. But I was the guy they brought in from Texas. Steinbrenner brought me in. We were up 3-0, and we had this incredible debacle, and we lost 4 in a row. It was like never been done before, and I was part of that. But the reason why is to be a champion, you need talent, you need passion and grit, but then you need poise and discipline. And the last two, you can't have a shortcut. You gotta have time, you gotta have reps, and that's what our team needs. And in the future, we'll be more prepared when our time comes.
So just staying with sports franchises for a second, because I look at the headlines as I know you do. Chelsea's going to trade, it looks like, to an American owner, Todd Boehly. He's in exclusive talks there. The Broncos are narrowing down in the NFL. When you look at that, and I go back to the comment you made about $5 billion, I mean, it's mind-boggling the value of these franchises. You went through a very public process where you came in second to buy the Mets. Tell me more about how you see ownership and valuations evolving. You know, dig into that $5 billion a little bit for me.
Yeah, Jason, when you look at it, we talked about great neighborhoods, right? And I just love that because it's pretty simple. We all are part of a neighborhood. Sports was just sports. I think people now are understanding when you see what Josh Harris and Blitzer are going with their entertainment media platform, and they're buying a collection of teams. It's just a holding company. And under that holding company, we have Minnesota Timberwolves, we have the Lynx, we have our media, we have our venture, right? We have our real estate, which is all around the real estate. So there's so many businesses under the sports. Of course, the team gets the headlines, but is an incredible anchor and an octopus of opportunities that comes in. Back in the late 70s and 80s, remember, late 70s, teams were traded for $15 million. And you didn't have groups. It was just usually a wealthy family. I remember Jerry Reinsdorf said, I bought both teams, I couldn't afford them. Jerry Buss, the same thing with the Lakers. And they make things happen. They go to their banks, they got to grind like hell. Today, if you look at the ownerships, it's really, really white glove blue chips. The Waltons are all over and probably the favorite to buy the Broncos. That number trade probably for $4.5 billion or so. And they're already in because the Kroenke, who owns the Denver Nuggets and the Rams, is married to a Walton. So it's always good to have an inside track. Track, right? So.
You came to play today. I appreciate that.
No, I actually need some sleep. I worked out. I'm too dizzy. I'm about to faint. I need some water, but they worked my ass butt hard today. So when you think about Waltons, you look at Steve Ballmer from Microsoft, you look at Mark Cuban, you have all, Kroenke and Crafts. These are all blue chip names that are titans in the world of business and now are running these franchises so great. Look at the Atlanta Braves. Greg and John Malone, they just won a world championship. Greg will talk here after me for the main event, and they own F1. And again, tremendous leadership. It always goes back to the people, and they got the right people.
I appreciate the shout out to my Atlanta Braves. It's very nice. Speaking of baseball, I tuned in on Sunday, and there you were, the KRod broadcast. So you shifted, which is very interesting because we talked about this when we met up at the end of last year, and it was clear you were sort of rethinking your broadcast strategy. For those of you who don't know, you can tune in. It's not every Sunday.
No, 8 Sundays.
8 Sundays for the KRod broadcast. You and Michael K. You're in one place, but you're watching the game.
Right.
It's similar to the Manning cast.
Yeah.
Same general idea. This past Sunday, Keith Hernandez comes in like your crazy uncle, like big on the screen. His cat's in the background. Tell me about your choice to do that, and also as both a participant and a consumer of media, what that's taught you about where we may be going.
Well, Jimmy Patero, who runs ESPN, I was very honest, and I said I can't do 30 Sundays. It's got to travel on Saturday. You get there on Sunday. You're off on Monday. I have a daughter that's going to be a senior next year. I have a daughter that's going to be a freshman next year. Between the Timberwolves and running our firm, I mean, my bandwidth, I couldn't do 30. So he kind of gave me an open format to say, what do you want to do? I said, well, I can probably do 8 to 10 Sundays. And if I can do it with my best buddy, my good buddy, Michael K. And he said, fine. So KRod, in many ways, I think could be a future of how games are watched and telecasted. We basically sit on a couch like this, we're watching the game, and I think is even a better format for baseball than football because you have all this downtime. So it allows us to have fun. I mean, we were interviewing Keith Hernandez. I was like a little kid. He was my favorite player of all times. He literally had his face like, older people stuck in the thing. And I was like, I wanted to tell Keith to back up a little bit. Then he brings this cat who's had for 19 years and starts petting him. And then we're talking about nightlife in New York City and where he would take me if we were all, going to have a good time with the 84, 85 Mets. And if you haven't seen the documentary, watch it on ESPN. But yeah, and then I get to be Vanna White. I get to go to the wall and explain, like, if I was commissioner, for the year, what would I do? And I explained the Aaron Judge contracts and the dynamics of it. So it gives you, and I've had, Mitch, I don't know if you've watched or read, but a lot of people have reached back and go, I'm actually enjoying it more than I thought.
Right.
And it's just because we get to be ourselves.
And so what is that, as an investor, then you must look at that and say, all right, so that's an interesting live sports product. Mm-hmm. You and I have talked before about sort of synchronous versus asynchronous in terms of on-demand versus live. Sports is obviously very interesting to you, but you also think about media. You've already alluded to the fact that media is a key part of valuing sports franchises. What does it tell you about kind of the future of media in some ways? Because you're also very active on social media, thanks to your daughters.
Yeah,
probably.
I mean, think about it. I mean, we're watching a baseball game. We're watching the Mets, and we're watching the Phillies. We're talking about Steve Cohen and having one of the richest owners in sports, but one of the richest as far as deploying capital and analytics. But what he did differently is he also brought in Buck Showalter, who is a savant and is an old school guy. Reminds me of Nick Saban. So the combination of analytics and old school, I think, is just perfect. But when you think about media and you look at the numbers, everyone thought, oh man, LeBron is not in the postseason. NBA is going to go down. The ratings have never been better, right? And it allows others guys like Ja, Morant, Anthony Edwards from our team. You look at Luka from the Mavericks. I mean, the talent is phenomenal. And here's the thing. What's your name? Yeah. Dean. If Dean and I go to Minnesota Timberwolves, we sit half court, right on my seats, and tip off to 7:05, we're ordering a steak and a glass of wine, right? By 9:15, right? Now, if you look at baseball, 9:15, you're probably at the top of the second inning.
Yeah.
Which makes it challenging. So
just as we start to wind down a little bit, you have really shifted dramatically into your role as a businessman, an owner, investor. What's sort of top of mind when you sit around the table in Coral Gables with your team? You've recruited a really interesting and impressive roster of people. What's top of the agenda right now when it comes to deals that are out there, concerns that you have? Take us inside the boardroom.
There's so much information. My mentor, Warren Buffett, told me, the reason why I live in Omaha is I don't need to be in New York with all the information, all the noise. Well, like today, you don't have a choice because it comes at you, your phone and your iPad, and it's everywhere. But I think for us, and the difference between in sports being a champion or not, is just discipline and being quiet in the moment. Look, we're all going to get a Mike Tyson punch in our life. At some point, we're all going to get it. And if you haven't gotten it, get ready because it's coming. Right? You just got it. You got to be able to take the hit and stay calm and stay cool and be positive and think before you talk. I mean, these are the conversations I have with my daughters at home. Every night, no phones, no electronics. We're going to sit and talk. We have breakfast club, not 9:30 every Saturday, from 8:30 to 10. No electronics, old school conversations. They hate it at first. They love it now. So for parents, if you want to do a little breakfast club, it's been an incredible investment for me and my girls. But really doubling down on our core businesses. That means real estate. For the first time in over 5 years, we're going to go to the market, raise a little capital for our real estate. We've already bought about $1 billion of multifamily apartments, and we're going to go out and attack it pretty hard again. But really focusing and doubling down on our winners and trying to spend 90% of our time in what brings us 90% of our returns. And I've been where I'm doing it opposite, and that's frustrating.
When you look at the broader world, geopolitically, but also politically, here in Florida, here in Miami, a lot of landmines out there. What do you worry about from that perspective?
Well, look, I think it's funny. We had John McEnroe and Patrick on our show the other day at KRod, and they're talking about world politics, and they're talking about art, and they're talking about sports and tennis. I mean, so that was so great to have such a 360 conversation. I just think as an industry, we have to be careful. I mean, we have this this cancel culture, and it triggers young people to do silly things. We're going to end up losing our most talented people because they didn't say the right thing or they weren't proper. And we just got to take a breath, man. I mean, be good to humans. People are going to make mistakes. Because you say something doesn't mean you're racist. Because you say this doesn't mean that. Like, let's give each other a break. And people are just like waiting. People are watching me right now to see if I screw something up. And it might be a funny joke, but they want to cancel somebody. So I have great sympathy for those. There's a lot of good people. And I think as a result, you give young people power to do silly things and bring people down. And you just got to be careful with that. There's too many good things going on.
Do you worry locally that politics could overwhelm and deter some of the growth that's happening here?
I worry that politics can screw everything up everywhere. I do. I think the pendulum's gone too far to the right, and it makes me sad that you have all these things that you can't talk to this person because he's red, or can't talk to this person because he's blue. I won't go to that hotel because it's owned by a red. It's crazy. And at the end of the day, we're all red, white, and blue. We're all part of the greatest country in the world. And we see what's happened in Russia and Ukraine and all this nonsense. And we just went through one of the world's biggest world pandemics. And we're still trying to fight at each other instead of, love each other. And I just think we need a little bit more love, a little bit more passion, and a little bit more patience.
All right, best advice that you can give this audience in 1 minute. You've learned a lot over the years.
Don't listen to anything I say. No, I would just, it's what I tell my daughters, it's about overcoming adversity. People talk about my great, accomplishments in life, in winning the championship in '09 and doing some great things. The thing I'm most proud of is being a father, and I'm 5th all time in the history of the game. 5th. Rachel, 5th, right? All time in the history of strikeouts. That means I have a PhD in failing. It also means that only 4 people in the history of mankind have struck out more than me. But I also tell my girls that I have a master's in getting back up. And that's the key in life. You're going to get knocked down. You got to get up. You got to dust off and have positive. Take time for yourselves. take a little time for yoga and Zen and turn on Fox News or CNBC or CNN for a minute and put Instagram away, put the phones away, and let's connect in old school conversations because I miss it. I miss it. And I'm sure some of you guys missed it as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.